Hey everyone, it's Ryan back at Ryan's On-Site Repairs. Since I had such good responses on this torch, I decided that I was gonna do another one where I can actually show you guys how to rebuild one for yourself. So I redid this one, and my neighbor was like, "Hey, I've got one of those." And I said, "Oh, why don't you give it to me? You always help me out, so I'll do a once over on it and get it back to how it should be, and you can use it if you want." So let me get up and show you closely what we've done so far. So first thing you want to do is get it entirely disassembled. So this one has a pumper, just like all the other ones, and a leather cup washer, and I've got some what is it? It's leather cream on it right now, trying to revive the leather. Otherwise, I'm going to have to make another leather washer for it. You've got the burner head, where you want to get all the screws out and the needle out and disassemble it entirely. Usually there's just 2 screws in them. You've got your needle, where it's got a really fine needle on the end of it. If you break that, you're done with this. I mean, a lot of these things, if you break it, you're done. But thankfully you can pick these up for pretty cheap, since they're pretty much relegated to just display pieces. And you've got your main tube that goes up into the head. That's the tricky part to get out. So you want to hold this in a good vise. Hold on a second, I gotta turn the heater off. Alright, forgive me about that. So anyways, you want to hold that in a good vise, and you want to hold it well so that you don't damage it. One thing I learned is you don't want to hold it by the head up here, because if you spin that in the vise, you'll bend it. And then if you try to bend it back, even with heat, you'll put a crack in it. I accidentally put a tiny crack in this one right there, if you can see it. So once you get it disassembled, you're probably going to have a cotton wick that's up in there. I just discard them. Maybe it's useful to have them in there, I don't know for sure. That one seems to work perfectly fine with it. And you'll also have a tiny little metal screen that also goes in that tube. That is important, because that'll keep debris that's down in your tank, like little bits of rust and that, from coming up through the tube and clogging up your tiny little miniature orifices, like that needle. And there's some tubes up in there that are very important. So things that you might need are an impact screwdriver is very helpful for removing any of the bits that are, you know, in there and have a flathead on them. I buggered up the one a little bit. I broke the rule. I didn't use the impact screwdriver before I went for it, so I put some heat on it then and got the impact screwdriver on it before it wouldn't come out ever again. And then this, all I did was wire wheel it and blow it out with some compressed air. Then I put some metal polish on it. And I did my best to save the logo, because that's pretty cool. C&L trademark manufacturing. You guys can figure it out. This is a Clayton Lambert. Sorry about the focus. There you go. Then I just threw some clear coat on it real quick. The other thing that might be helpful is a good tumbler. I like to use mineral spirits and the green tumbler beads, whatever you want to call those, pyramids. I've got a little drain valve on it, that way you can drain it off when it gets dirty and replenish it with new mineral spirits. So I'm going to put you guys back up on the camera stand and start putting it together, and we'll see how it goes. By the way, in the last video, you guys were commenting on my coveralls. These are some Oldsmobile service station coveralls from the Service Master back in the day. So these ones I'm probably going to try to keep clean, and they're going to be my prize in the overalls or coveralls collection. If you guys find it enjoyable, I'll keep using more antiques and wearing them, because if an antique isn't useful, it's not useful to me. I think that's how it should be. It reminds you where you came from, and you got to know where you came from, otherwise you're going to just make the same mistakes as your ancestors did. So first thing we're going to do is we've got our tube. I've already punched it out with a rod. Made sure that's completely clean. Well, we've actually got one of the green pyramids in it still, so let's get that out. I guess there's a few in there. All right, now we're clean. So we're gonna put our filter screen back in. Sometimes you need to unwind them and rewind them tighter. They're a little bit tricky to drive out whenever you're trying to clean it. You just want to roll it up nice and tight. The fuel vapors will pass through there, but little debris won't. And then you just gotta wind it in if you can. There it goes. All right, so that's good enough. Next thing we're gonna do, what do I wanna do? I wanna screw this onto the burner. So we did have a fiber packing that went down in there, just to help seal it up against the body of the torch. Then your tube threads on. You're going to want to get that fairly tight. Just put a vice grip on the neck of it where there aren't any threads, and give it a good crank if you can. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to blow out our passages and make sure it's completely clear. It should be. Yep. I see it blowing out there. All right, so our passages are all clear. Now we're going to throw our needle in. Remember, be very gentle with it. If you have leaks, it'll be in the packing, which is up in here. You'll want to be watching out for leaks whenever you put it back together, because the last thing you want is this to be sitting in a hot shop and gasoline be in it and vapors be pouring out of it. You want it to be airtight if you can. Just snug that up until you got nice resistance on your valve, and that's when you know you have it right. Then we'll put our screw back in. I'm only going to put one screw in because the other one holds on the heat shield. back in. As I mentioned in the last video, you might not know this hook is for putting your soldering iron in. Check out that video if you haven't already. Okay, we're looking good so far. Then we want to put our puddle cup on. I don't know if that's the right name for it, but that's what I'm going to call it, because you put a puddle of gas in it and it's a tiny cup. So we're going to call it a puddle cup. If you have a better name for it, let me know. Looks like it's getting caught on the vice grip marks a tiny bit. I think that's going to work for us. Then you just tighten down your set screw. Again, be gentle with it because you don't want to mess these screw heads up if you're trying to restore it. You never want to get it back apart again. Okay, now we can screw our burner head back in to the torch. The other thing that might be helpful for getting things apart is a good oxy torch. That's a DHC Cobra. DHC stands for Detroit Henrob Cobra, because those are the 3 different companies that made claim on those torches back in the day. So you pretty much want to tighten this up until you get a really nice seal. It's tapered pipe thread, so the next thing I'll do is I'll throw the head in the vise. That's where you want to clamp it. Sorry about spinning you around, don't get dizzy. You want to clamp it there, and then let me see if I can get you propped up to where you can see it. Okay, that's probably the best we're going to do. So we're clamped in the vise. We're just going to give it a spin, crank it around until your burner head's lined up where you want it. That looks about perfect. So our puddle cup moved a little bit, so we're going to change that. I like to have it a little bit low on there because when you have your flame, it's going to put more heat into the head rather than let all the heat just go right around it. So something like that. Let me get you back up in a better spot. All right, hopefully that's good to where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, next thing, we're going to get our heat shield back on. That just slips around. Oh, I got to get the hook back off. Just pinch it on there. Get your screw back in. There we go. penetrating oil is another thing you're going to want. So I like the Croil in the can rather than the aerosol, but I do keep the aerosol on me just in case I run into something where I can't pour it in with the little can. And this one's getting low, so I'm probably going to buy the big 1 gallon jug and just refill it with that. Hopefully it's not too expensive. If it's a $150 can of oil, I might opt for something else. ATF is also a really good penetrant. Really, you just want something thin that can creep in. That's why people put acetone in their ATF whenever they want to make homemade penetrating oil. So I'm taking my pumper now, and we're going to put our leather cup washer back on. And screw it back on. It's starting to look like a torch again. And I've got let me see if I can get that on camera. I've got a little piece on the cup washer that's sticking out, so I'm going to try to trim that down and save the cup washer. Otherwise, I'm going to have to make another one. If you guys have a good source of these, let me know, but it's not something you can just go to the hardware store anymore and buy. I'm just using a razor blade. The top of the pumper actually says on it oil, so it's nice user instructions to tell you, hey, put some oil down this hole every now and then if you want your pumper to survive and your leather not to dry up. So that's what we got now. That looks a little better. We'll see if it works. I didn't tear apart this and check the check valves out. It looks relatively clean, so we're just going to hope it works. We'll know pretty quick here. But you can take the check valves apart and fix them if you have issues. I'm listening for air coming out. Sounds like it's working, so we're going to put it together and fill it up with gas and see if it works. You just screw that back in the side there. Just be cautious because these are brass threads. You don't want to go crazy on things. So there's our finished result. I'm going to go get some gasoline and fill it up and we'll see if it works. I already went through the procedure on this one with you guys, so if you don't know how to run it, check out that video. If I get this running, I'll come back and put a quick video of you guys to be able to see it. All right, everybody, we had a success. So it's still warming up, but everything looks like it's working right. You want to keep careful watch for leaks, because as I've said, you don't want leaks on this. But the pumper seems to work. I don't see any bubbles anywhere coming out where it shouldn't. Now it's all been apart, so it's probably going to leak and seal up and varnish and seal itself up a little bit to an extent. But anything more than tiny little bubbles, you're going to have to take care of yourself. So have a great day, everyone. Please try to help me grow the channel. Like, subscribe, comment, do all the good stuff. Ryan's On Site Repairs out.